What's going on, guys? Man, damn. So, this was supposed to be this was supposed to be a live reaction, but for whatever reason, my camera cut off. So my whole live reaction to this chapter has just been fucked. God damn it, dude. Fuck. Dude, I did a live reaction for this chapter, and I mean, I guess I can do a review now, but fuck, dude. Damn, that was a good live reaction. I think it was like it was 45 minutes, dude. The first 10 minutes were basically me like just talking about like the anticipation for this chapter, and I mean I'm still, god damn it, dude, fuck. I don't know why my like damn I don't know my camera went off. Anyway, I can't do a live reaction, but anyway I guess how did I? So I was planning to do a live reaction, and I actually recorded one, but then my camera cut off. So, and I was at the live reaction cut off at the moment in the chapter where we see CP0, and CP0 is like continue to do like battle my pirates, my dear pirates, as if they're like manipulating and controlling it, and I was having thoughts about that. Um, and so I didn't get the end of the chapter with Kaido's hybrid form, so I can't do a live reaction now because that shit's fucked. So I have to do like a full on review here. Damn, that was a full like 45 minutes, and now I have to do more. But I mean, I don't mind doing a review. Like it's still fine. It was a heat chapter. Spoilers came out or they came out early, and people were saying like, "Yo, this is like a great chapter. Like you got to live react." And when people tell me like I got to live react, like my mind automatically goes to like theory crafting and that sort of shit, right? Like, man, this has got to be like fucking like lore heavy. I'll be right back. Let me get my. This will take like hopefully just 20 seconds of this video, right? But I gotta get my charger. I'll be right back. Ah, damn, so damn. That fucking pisses me off, man. Like I lost my live reaction, dude. It recorded only 45 minutes of it. I was right. Damn, dude. Anyway, okay. I don't mind doing a review though. It'll probably be like a shorter video too. Um, but yeah, so yeah, everyone sent me live react. So I didn't read spoilers or nothing. Like I was like trying so hard like not to get fucking spoiled, and thankfully I didn't. And it was funny. Like today, like I didn't feel like sleeping, and now I'm obviously tired because I just fucking wasted like a whole live reaction. But the chapter came out at the opportune time. I went on Twitter. I see Matt B. Shout out Matt B. His tweet about like let's live react to the chapter, discuss the chapter live, and it's like yes, the fucking One Piece chapter is finally here. So now I get to, you know, review it, if you will, and or I was supposed to live react to it, but now it's a review. So, but yeah, I mean, it was a great chapter. I really enjoyed it. And I wish I really wish the live reaction would have stayed up though, because like I was just going like speaking, right? But yeah, so the title, like the knight reflected on a go board. At first, I didn't understand that, right? But I gotta say the cover page with the Reiju and the Scorpion, it's nice. There's something about like Sanji and his family, like the Vinsmokes, in a desert, like aesthetic or motif that just like suits him for some whatever reason. And yeah, so I like that. Yeah, but it was basically more fighting, and I kind of assumed that Kaido and Big Mom, they weren't really taking too much damage. What kind of surprised me though was that Luffy was already getting exhausted and losing his power up. Like if I just feel like like this is only like what the fight's only been like what 3 chapters, 2 chapters, whatever. Yeah, 3 chapters, right? They got there at 1,000. He uses Red Rock in 1,000, and then yeah, so this is the third chapter of the fight, and he's already like gotten exhausted, if you will. And I forget, like his ability to go small. So I remember like he got exhausted in Dressrosa when he fought. Take some water. Hold on. When he fought Dofi, and then he was getting away like on the Coliseum, the commentator, his back. So I assume like that's the same thing here, but I forget like what happened to like him going small with Gear Third. I forget like what happened with that. Is that like no longer like an issue for him? It's not, right? I forget. It's like been months, and like there's been weeks in between chapters, and I finished rereading One Piece like 5 months ago or something like that, or like half a year ago, maybe more than half a year ago, like a half a year ago plus some change. So, but yeah, that was kind of surprising. But then I was just kind of like correlating it a little bit to like Dragon Ball Z fights a little bit, if you will, where it's kind of like Goku as a Super Saiyan 3 versus Kid Buu, that sort of thing, maybe. But the thing about Luffy is that he's like this very direct, blunt, um, confrontational, aggressive like character, right? So he would go all out from the beginning, like he wouldn't hold anything back. So I guess it's expected, but it's kind of like, I kind of wish like he would have saved his energy, his true strength for like later in the fight, right? Which very well could be the case. The other thing that I would like to point out is like the thing about like fights and shonen like this is you got to think about it like fights like in the Namek arc in Dragon Ball Z, and specifically what I'm talking about is like villains getting beat up and having battle damage on them, right? Because like in this fight we see like Luffy cut or excuse me, Zoro cut Kaido, Zoro cut Kaido. Yeah, there we go. And then they were like, oh my god, like Kaido's getting hit too easily and he's like sustaining too much damage, and just kind of like no, you can have characters like bleed and sustain like battle damage and like have scuff marks like on their skin and everything, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're getting beat up or that they're heavily damaged. For example, in the case of, and everyone knows me as the Dragon Ball guy, in the case of Recoome versus Gohan and Vegeta and Krillin, this guy had his all his armor torn off, had his hair like fucking like, God damn, it's like fucking like snow, like animals. There's been like some like noise coming. It scared the shit out of me. There's been so like his hair like went from like that pineapple looking like that one JoJo villain, I forget his name. It went from looking like that kind of hair to just like a mohawk. Rakume's like the top crack of his the top half of his ass crack was showing, and he had like battle scuffs and damage marks like all over him. But that doesn't necessarily mean that he was necessarily majorly hurt by Vegeta after he uses like his final flash and like all these different or a pseudo final flash, if you will, and all like these different attacks. Same thing in the case of Frieza in what 50% of his power versus Kaioken Goku. He was bleeding, he had scuff marks all over his body, but he was barely using half of his power. So it's moments like that that you got to think about. It's just because they get hit doesn't necessarily mean that they're getting majorly damaged. Um, so yeah, that was definitely a thing. The two major things for me for this chapter were the CP0 stuff and the Kai and the obviously the Kaido hybrid stuff. Before I get to that, I just want to see. Yes, I just want to like I don't want to gloss over anything. Um, in the case of okay, so it's still recording. That's a good thing. Okay. I guess like I minimized it and something fucking happened. That's probably like why it cut off when I was doing the live reaction. But so Law says he'll be unable to use hockey for 10 minutes. And someone says, give Luffy to me after Zoro rescues him from motherly fire, from Big Mom's motherly fire. I assumed that was Zoro, or I assumed that was Law who said that, but it's not. I don't know where Luffy, Zoro is continuing to hold on to him, I assume. Um, but yeah, Law uses counter shock. I always assumed like I mean it should be obvious. Like I should have been knowing since last chapter or chapters before. But it's more a kid like Killer's weapons. First of all, he wasn't that hurt from him and Zoro weren't that hurt from Big Mom's lightning attack. Seems like no one has really gotten too serious yet, right? But in the case of Killer and Zoro, they're not too hurt by her attack. And Killer, he's back in action, and he's using his weapons are kind of like Tira's weapon from Soul Calibur 6 or Soul Calibur 3, which is where she debuted. Um, and it's not like a Wolverine sort of blades anymore, right? They're like circular, like spinning blades that he uses, which is pretty cool. Um, and yeah, Zoro or Kaido is laughing after taking all this damage. He uses Dragon Twister, and you have like all like these like massive like spreads, which are pretty cool looking. Um, the other thing that I want to talk about is whether Zoro is consciously or unconsciously. So is he directly or indirectly using Ryuo with the Enma sword, right? So obviously Enma itself has a lot of innate haki, armament haki in it. And what I was saying in my live reaction before it got fucking cut off was that, um, so the monster trio before, I mean, I don't really think it's a monster trio now that Jinbei has joined. It's more like a monster quartet. But especially because Jinbei was stronger than all three of them pre-time skip, but um, uh, the original monster trio, they specialize in three kinds of hockey, right? Sanji specializes in observation hockey, Zoro does it for Armament Haki, and Luffy does it for Conqueror King's Haki, right? So in the previous arc, which was where Luffy learned Future Sight, the Future Sight Haki, which is the second stage of Observation Haki, that was a Sanji centric arc, which is the type of Haki that that he specializes in compared to the other two, right? And this arc, which is Wano, has Luffy learn the second stage of Armament Haki, and now you have Zoro, who himself gets an Armament Haki upgrade with Enma. And so I was thinking that maybe he gets to learn Ryuo like on a conscious level, like on a deliberate, like where he uses Ryuo, right? Like he's not using a weapon to achieve or access Ryuo. He's going to use it like with he can use Ryuo without the help of Enma, right? That seems like to be the case. Because there's only like one gash here, right? So like when he uses the Kala Sutra, Great Dragon Twister. So I think that's got to be an answer that Oda has to answer like definitively. So does Zoro know Ryuo because he actually knows it, or is he just using it because he's using Enma? So is Enma using it without Zoro's own like volition and will and all these sorts of things, right? And Zoro and Kaido biting Luffy reminded me of Jaya the snake in Skypiea doing the same to him. Remember when he swallowed Luffy and like Luffy was inside his stomach and like he had to punch his way out? I thought that's what was gonna happen here. It reminded me of that. But everyone was kind of surprised that he actually cut Kaido. But yeah, I mean, even though he gets cut by Odin's sword, Kaido is still laughing. So um, then he uses his attack called the Gale of Destruction, which is like this lightning. I for some reason I thought of Monkey D Dragon, where I have this theory that Monkey D Dragon, like his power, his Devil Fruit, which I assume he has one, is one that is like storm based. Like he has the storm fruit or the wind fruit or something like that, right? And his name is Dragon, and here you have a dragon using Gale of Destruction, like lightning and wind and all. It just made me think of that. So I was like, what if like Kaido and Dragon like they met and they fought? Like how would that, like would it just be like storm powers like conflicting, dragons and storm powers conflicting like that, or what? Um, but yeah, I mean you see them dodge it. I kind of like how Law is just using shambles to like dodge it. I thought that was pretty cool. And then it switches to like the CP0 stuff. So at first, so I guessed it was CP0. Like when I heard it, when they said, "Good grief, our supplier went and got himself killed." So this just seems to say that Orochi is definitely dead. Of course, we don't know what Fukuro Kuju has gone, like what he's done. Has he gone to help Kanjuro? Like where has he gone? Right? Where's Hote, the guy from the Mima Waragumi? I think that's how you say it. How are they going to help Orochi and Kanjuro? Can they bring them back to life? Like, are their ink powers going to come into play here? Like, what is it, right? But it seems like Orochi's like definitely dead. But when he said supplier, like my first guess was the CP0. The part that confused me though was that when he says the feast they invited us to, right? So this feast was meant to commemorate the alliance between Big Mom and Kaido, right? For the most part. Really, it was meant for Kaido and Orochi, like for them to take over Wano. Big Mom following Luffy to Kaido, or Big Mom following Luffy to Wano slash Onigashima slash Kaido was just kind of like a happy accident. It was fate, if you will, right? So it just seems kind of strange that they still insisted to invite them to this. It's strange that they wanted to invite CP0 to their party when the entire point of Big Mom and Kaido getting together was to find One Piece, to find the ancient weapons, to find the Void Sentry, to do all these things, and and doing those things to find One Piece is to basically endanger the world government, right? And so the world government's their combat unit is CP0. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like how the hell does that work? Like how can like the direct enemies of the world government, like how can they just sit in on a party? Like how can they be okay with that, right? And you can argue like it's just ignorant knowledge on Kaido and Big Mom's part, but I don't think that's the case because they were with Rox and Rox kidnapped. I think he did kidnap the world nobles and their slaves at God Valley, and that's why Roger and Garp fought him and presumably killed him, right, on God Valley. So it's just like how does that dynamic work there? I'm not necessarily saying like it's a case of bad writing. That's not what I'm saying. I just think it's like confusing, right? It doesn't make much sense, at least for this chapter. I'm sure it'll get explained later. But yeah, he says this skirmish is a result of a grudge that has festered within Wano for the past 20 years after Doflamingo's defeat. So yeah, it was the whole Odin and the Nine Scabbards thing. But a clash between Kaido and the Worst Generation became inevitable after Doflamingo's defeat, yes. But it also seems like fate conspired to make allies of the samurai and these pirates. So whenever they speak of fate in the future, I always freaking think of like Im, and like when he was talking with the Gorosei, right? Remember when he gave the Gorosei like the name that should be extinguished from history, right? Because they're the villains, right? They're like the ones behind the scenes, if you will. And so that name is presumably either Vivi. I think it's Cobra. I think one of my theories is that Cobra is actually dead. He's not alive anymore, and that Sabo is blamed for his death. And that actually the newspaper reports Sabo as dead, but it's more so that Sabo is actually still alive, because I don't think Oda's gonna off-screen fucking Sabo. But that's what will be said anyway. But this whole talk about fate in the future, and because it's the CP0 guy saying it, it really makes me think that Im has the power to see the future somehow. I don't know how he does it, maybe a devil fruit, or he or she, but that's what it is. And there's this other line of dialogue here where it says like, if two of the emperors were to fall here, the future would definitely become uncertain. So that's one thing, right? It's like it's so hard to tell and predict whether Big Mom and Kaido are going to be defeated, and this dialogue just says that. And with CP0 here is Bao Wang, the girl with the eye on her face, and like on that tapestry, like on that wall scroll, if you will, that's on her face. And she is a part of Who's Who's crew, presumably because Who's Who has the same eye design on his chest. And so it just got me thinking like Who's Who's name is such a brilliant, it's such a triple double meaning sort of name, where it's like Who's Who, like first of all he's masked, he knows Jinbei from before he was a pirate, and then this can imply that he's a fucking CP0 agent, so who knows, right? And if he is a CP0 agent, it just makes me think like, is he related to Spandam somehow because of the pink hair? People were thinking like maybe Squard back then because he also has pink hair, and Who's Who has pink hair, but who knows? Anyway, and like he knows Jinbei and Squad, and Jinbei and Whitebeard, they had history, so who knows how that works out. But I like the CP0 member, like with the mask over his face. I like that. It reminds me of the Deku mask from Majora's Mask, like the hole in the middle. I like that. The invaders are So then it gets to talking about like Kaido's executives, right? And that's very important because it got me thinking like even when Whitebeard was killed, Marco was still seen as like a big player. He was still seen as a big player like in the New World, even though Whitebeard was killed. And Blackbeard defeating him is what allowed Blackbeard to become one of the emperors, right? It allowed him to get that title. And that's what I was saying too. Even if Big Mom is defeated this arc, her crew is still out there. Katakuri is still out there. They still have to be dealt with, and they're a threat. And so that's the same case with Kaido here. Like even if he's defeated, King and Queen are still there. I mean, Jack already got his ass kicked by the Nine Scabbards, by Inu and Neko. He ain't shit compared to them. But King and Queen are still there, so you have to take out like their first mates, if you will. Like it would be Zoro and Sanji for Luffy. It would be presumably John Bart and Beppo for Law. It would be Ben Beckman for Shanks. It would be Shiryu for Blackbeard. So it's always like that first mate, or like those first line of officers. They're always like super important to a very powerful pirate's crew. So that makes me think that whether my whole thing is that Kaido and Big Mom, they have to be defeated by the SSG. They don't have to be defeated by them, but I think they will be, because I think one of the ways that One Piece's story can develop is that a way for the Marines to be seen as like a threat in this new world is for them to actually defeat two Yonko at the same time. That doesn't necessarily mean kill them, but it does mean defeat them. I have no idea whether these two... it's hard to say whether they will be defeated or not defeated against the five pirates, against Luffy and Zoro and Law and Killer and Kid. But against the SSG, I can see them being defeated. As for being killed, though, I'm not so sure because if you remember, Big Mom, Kaido, Blackbeard, and the Marines were all preparing for a great war. Kaido was preparing for this war because of the smiles that he was getting from Dofi and Caesar Clown. Big Mom wanted to have the same gigantification experiments. She wanted the numbers basically for the most part. Well, not the numbers because they were failed experiments, but she wanted Caesar Clown. She had plans for a lab that Caesar Clown can work in. So she wanted giant numbers in her family and for to prepare for that fight. Blackbeard is stealing devil fruits for this fight, and the SSG and the Marines have created something like the SSG's project that's going to be able to fight the Yonko. So they still have to partake in this war. That's this war, and not the war that comes when you find One Piece. The war that happens like when you fight each other before this, right? That still needs to happen. So I don't think they can die. I don't think Big Mom and Kaido can die until that specific war happens. They may or may not be defeated by Luffy and his friends here, right? They may or may not be. I think they have to be defeated by the SSG if they fight, right, to make the Marines not seem so pitiful. So yeah, I mean, those are my thoughts on that. The other thing is like I was so happy to see Law's crew here. It was because everyone say like, man, when the fuck are Law's crew gonna fight? And now we see Beppo and Shachi and Penguin, they're fighting, and somewhere John Bart somewhere in there hopefully. But my whole thing is how the fuck did they get up there? I'm not saying this like in a term of like I'm criticizing it. It's just like it doesn't make like how did that happen? My initial idea is that Law used Shambles somehow. They used Shambles somehow to get up here, right? Because if you remember when Onigashima started to levitate, remember there was a panel with the guys where they were caught up in they were caught up like in the surrounding waves that happened when Onigashima started to lift. They were caught in those waves, so they couldn't get onto the island. So how did they get up there? That's the big question. I assume it's like Shambles, like Law used Shambles, but I don't know how like he had enough time to use that and then get to the Emperors. I mean, they were waiting for Luffy, right? So who knows? There might have been enough time to do it, but regardless, I'm still happy to see them there. And we see the Go board itself. So this is like the reference to the title. So at first, like I was looking at it, like when I saw the five the five white stones together, I was thinking like the Oda is probably going to show like some sort of like symbol. There's got to be like some like sign or symbol or design here that has to be recognizable. And I couldn't really think of it, and then I started to think like because it's CP0 and there's five like points. Maybe they were gonna make like the world government sign on the scoreboard somehow, right? So that was my initial things, but then they got into talking about like the emperors, like their executives. So this board is an analogy and an example for Luffy's crew fighting the flying for Marco fighting King and Queen, and for the Toby Roppo fighting the other Straw Hats at the moment, right? So that's what's happening, and then obviously you have Drake fighting Apu. So this Go board represents that, but I do think at some point when we go back to this Go board, it's going to represent. It's going to like the world government sign is going to show up on this board at some point because you have the 5 points, so, and I definitely think that's going to happen. And when you think about the title, The Night Reflected on the Go board, The Night Reflected on the Go board, notice how opposite that is compared to the dawn that will, the dawn of Wano that Joy Boy and like all of them will bring, like the 9 Scabbards will bring, dawn versus night. So it seems like this is like very much like a world government versus Will of D sort of thing. So I'm sure this is this has to be some sort of not a reference to that, but like a contrast between those two things. And yeah, as they said, as you said, the weird thing about this though, right, is like the CP0 guy, like his mask changes. Like we thought it was a mask, but his face actually changes. So, and his eye doesn't show. That's the interesting. So it's actually like his face. I thought it was always a mask, but it's not. It's actually his fucking face. And it's like changing and shit. but it says like, but they were planning for this, so that's the thing, right? Like this was the expected result, that Kaido and Big Mom will fight Luffy and Law and Kid, like the two current emperors versus the worst generation. This is something that fate decreed was going to happen. So it's almost like they know this, and this is what makes me think of like M and the world government somehow knowing the future, if you will. Um, Maybe not the whole future because they don't have Law's Fruit in their command. Remember how in my theory for Blackbeard I was saying like how Law's Fruit was 5 billion belly, and that was the same amount as Whitebeard's, and or close to the same amount as Whitebeard's and Rogers bounties, or somewhere like in that league and ballpark. So it just goes to show how like how important, like they still don't have One Piece, they still don't have Lost Fruit, and these are things that threaten them somehow. So and the ancient weapons threaten them somehow too. So they may not know have the whole picture of fate, or they may not be able to see the whole future in its entirety, but they can still see it somehow, like some glimpse of the future they can see, like Charlie, if you will, how she can just see it. I assume it's something like that, but yeah, this whole thing about how it's expected, and please continue to do your utmost to take each other out, my dear pirates. That line of dialogue, it made me think. So they were manipulating it somehow. So it could be through this fate thing. I was also thinking that another thing, because Bao Wang is there, maybe they're using Who's Who. And like I was saying, Who's Who is like such a brilliant name. It could mean like he could be like a triple double agent for the CP0. Who knows? But this confrontation is developing as expected. That is, I promise you, like years from now, like when we look at this is gonna be like such a big clue as to, like what, like how they know this. You know, it's gonna indicate something. So, and then we get to Kaido's his hybrid form, and this just looks awesome. It's silhouetted, and it really gives me a super Yi Jinglong vibe from Dragon Ball GT, Omega Shenron, if you will, for the dub guys. Um, and Kid is saying, "What the hell is that?" And is that Kaido? It must be his hybrid form. So at first I was thinking, like, I before I went down to the last page of my live reaction, I was thinking, okay, so is this like I was thinking, because of like the incredulity of the three captains, of their reactions, like how incredulous they were when they saw it. I was thinking maybe he doesn't have a dragon. Maybe he doesn't have like a dragon look to him, right? Because even if you see, usually like when you go like hybrid Zoan form, the nose of the animal is like what like replaces the human nose. That doesn't seem to be the case here. It doesn't seem like Kaido's human nose is replaced with a dragon nose. It doesn't look like that at all. I mean, it could, who knows? But it does. At least from the silhouette here, it doesn't look like it. It looks like a very like sharp nose, and he really just gives me like an Omega Shenron vibe for whatever reason. Um, and but anyway, what I was thinking before I went to that last panel, I was thinking like it was like Dressrosa, where Luffy was wearing like the carp. Um, he was wearing like the carp costume, because people were saying like, oh my god, like he has a fish model, and it was just kind of like, this might be like what the hybrid form looks like. And I didn't think that was going to be the case. But anyway, that was basically the chapter. They obviously, like the emperors, they're not hurt by their attacks too much. They're just, they're, like I said, it's like a Frieza Raccoon sort of thing, where like they have battle damage, but they're not really damaged. um, and yeah, man, and that's the end of the chapter basically. It was a great chapter as well, worth it. And there's no break next week. That's awesome. Um, the other thing I want to talk about is definitely the SBS that came out with Volume 98. So I have a theory. Like currently right now, a video that I'm working on is for Dragon Ball Z. It's for the Buu arc, like what is Buu's strongest form, and how strong are Goku, Gohan, and Gotenks in relation to each other, and the different forms of Buu, right? But after that, I have like a couple of One Piece videos planned, and one of those theories was about devil fruits, right? And I don't think I got a chance to talk about it. Maybe I talked about it in a stream, but definitely not on video. At least I don't remember talking about it on video. But it was about the devil fruits, and when Kaido, his fruit was revealed to be a fish model in 999, right? And I was doing a theory on like devil fruits, and that just kind of like doesn't change it necessarily, but it adds like a whole new wrinkle to it, something else that I got to consider. One of the things about One Piece is like when you talk about like the bravery of characters and the charisma of the series and the macho ness, is that you're talking about a series about characters who are pirates or who sailed the sea, and they are brave for doing this, especially those who have devil fruits, because they give up their ability to swim. They are risking their life to go out to sea. That is something that is very like brave and like manly and macho, you know. And so like this is an important thing to Oda. You know, he wants to portray these things in his characters in his manga. And so when you have characters that go out to sea that give up their ability to swim, that's something that is very courageous and charismatic and strong and manly, right? So when you have a fish devil fruit, that just makes it all the more confusing. Like because devil fruits, they take away your ability to swim. So it just goes into like this whole like why does this exist, right? You have to think about like the why does this exist? What do non mythical fish fruits look like? So that sort of thing. As for what his model was, it was revealed to be a Siryu. This kind of not surprised me too much because everyone was saying he was going to be a carp, right? Now, I already knew of like the Japanese myth because I had played Yakuza Kiwami 1. And I had already like I got into Yakuza in 2016. So Yakuza is a video game series, and in Yakuza 1, the main character, his name is Kiryu. He has a dragon on his back, right? He has a dragon on his back, and it's a silver dragon, and the main villain of the game, Nishiki, and formerly his best friend and now his rival and the villain of the game, has a carp on his back. So, as you guys know, after 999, the myth was explained. You have a carp. The myth, the Asian myth, the old Asian myth goes such a way that a carp, he travels up a waterfall, and because it takes him like a lot of like strength and willpower and stamina and endurance for a fish to climb a whole fucking waterfall, right? He was rewarded by transforming into a dragon. So it makes perfect sense. Like Kaido's fruit is like alluding to that. But I didn't think the model was going to be Siryu. I thought it was going to be like a Raijin or a Ryujin model. So for me, like I'm very much into mythology. As a kid, like I loved mythology, like Greek mythology, Norse, Japanese, Incan, Aztec, Indian, Hindu, Buddhist, like whatever, different countries and different religions, right? And so I knew of this. I knew uh, of this myth, right? This myth was something that was very it was like I'd already known about it. So I thought it was going to be a Ryujin or a Raijin because a Ryujin and a Raijin, what a Ryujin slash a Raijin is it's a Japanese dragon sea god, if you will. It tends to be a dragon, but it can just mean sea god in general, but a dragon sea god, and that's what I thought it was, because it was a fish model, and a fish lives in the sea, and you have the carp transforming into a dragon, and he's a dragon. But instead, he's a Seiryu. Seiryu is different from a Ryujin slash a Raijin. A Seiryu is actually a Chinese zodiac. I think it's a Chinese, but it's a zodiac beast. And the zodiac beasts, there are four of them. You have Seiryu, which in English translates to Azure Dragon. You have Byakuo, which translates to White Tiger. You have Genbu, which translates to Black Tortoise. And then you have Suzaku, which translates to Crimson slash Vermilion Bird. And you can also substitute bird for Phoenix, right? So you can do that. But they're very like famous like Taoist philosophical beasts, right? And it's just Series don't really have anything to do with fish, for the most part. So that's kind of like the part that kind of I didn't kind of understand that, but when you see that Kaido is a blue dragon and that Azure is a color, it kind of works that way. But it also has me thinking: are there going to be three other mythical Zoan fruits that have Genbu, that have Suzaku, and that have Byakuo? And maybe Yamato has Byakuo. Some people were saying that because she started to bear fangs, and the tiger tattoo or the tiger drawing that Kanjuro made back in Zou, that still needs to be explained, right? So maybe that's what Yamato is. She might be a Byakuo. That'd be kind of cool. And the other thing about the SPS that I wanted to speak about was the fruits, the non the Straw Hats without Devil Fruits, what Devil Fruits they would have. And the one that I really liked was Zoro's because Zoro was gonna have his swords were gonna eat Kaido's fruit, and I think that just suits him like perfectly. Zoro is someone who's like very like Japanese based. A lot of like Japanese men or what it means to be like a cool Japanese person. A lot of those motifs are in him. He's a swordsman. He uses katana. He drinks sake and alcohol. Zoro Juro. Like it just goes on and on. And so it just fits him. I feel like his spirit animal is a tiger, and his sword's getting the dragon fruit or the Seiryu fruit. Just suits him beautifully. You have the two Asian zodiac animals in there, dragon and tiger. He can use the Tatsumaki. He's colored green, which is traditionally the color of a dragon, so it works. Um, and yeah, I think that's really all I want to talk about. So yeah, this is my chapter 1003 review. Um, Thank you guys for watching, and I still regret that I couldn't do a live reaction. I wish you guys could have seen that because, man, when I read hybrid form on that, I was so hyped. But yeah, anyway, that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Be on the lookout for more videos. Take care.